Admit it. Admit it. When it comes to the world of wine and somebody says Portugal, you're thinking at the end of a meal, a waiter or sommelier comes to you and say, care for cognac, care for an after dinner drink, maybe some port. You're thinking of the fortified wines, the tawny ports, the ruby ports, the late bottle vintage ports, but there is so much more than fortified wines to the country of Portugal. Hi, I'm Larry Baker. I'm a certified level 2 sommelier and senior wine and spirit specialist here at ABC Fine Wine and Spirits in Sunrise, Florida. Sure, I love the fortified wines, which are fortified with brandy, a neutral flavored brandy, to bring the alcohol level up in the wine and keep the sweetness. Minimum level of alcohol in a fortified wine in Portugal must be 18%. Most are 19 and 20. I love the Ferreira, the white port. Say it says Branco. It's a white port. Yes, very rare product. You don't see a lot of white port, but I love it. But it's still a dessert or aperitivo wine after dinner, not something you would drink with a meal. Then we have a Reserve Tawny Port. It's aged in oak casks by Croft. 20% alcohol, absolutely delicious. If you've never had a tawny port or ruby port with a Stilton cheese or blue veined cheeses or dark chocolate, not milk chocolate, you're missing out on a great combination. One of the best. The more we age it, the more pricier it gets, the richer and softer it gets. A 20-year-old tawny port, but again, a fortified wine, dessert wine. And from the island of Madeira, which is still Portugal, most people think of Madeira mushrooms or Madeira. They're making a cooking or a sauce with Madeira, but Madeira is a great wine to drink. It's absolutely delicious, beautiful caves in the island of Madeira in Portugal. But most people think about Porto, which is again the region that these fortified wines, or except for Madeira, come from, the Porto region. And the grapes that they use are 6 red grapes. One of them is actually a nickname for Tempranillo, one of the synonyms for the grape Tempranillo, Tinta Roriz, R-O-R-I-Z. Tinta Roriz is Tempranillo, but there's 6 grapes that are mainly known in the Douro area of Portugal. There is Touriga Nacional, Tinta Barraco, Tinta Francisca, and all those wines. Touriga Nacional is very popular, as much as Tinta Roriz is, and all those other grapes. And instead of fortifying them, they make really powerful wine. Down in Alentejo, a different region, they use more, they call it Aragones, and they use other grapes like Alicante, Boucher, which you're not going to find in the Douro at all. But the Douro and the Dow is the whole DAO is another area of Portugal, but the main area for the big red wines are the Douro. But there's also some great white wines. One of the most refreshing white wines that I love to serve as an aperitivo because it's light. A lot of people, customers, they mistakenly call it, give me the green wine. I go, green wine? They've done everything. They do bourbon barrel wines. Why not put green coloring and call it green wine like creme de menthe? But no, the area is called Vinho Verde. Vinho Verde, which is a region in northwestern Portugal that they make this fresh, young, underripe grapes that have very low alcohol, 9 or 10% in these wines, and because of the very bright acidity of these grapes, you also get a sensation which is known in the business as a spritz, not a spritz. I'm pronouncing it right for once. I'm pronouncing something right. It's spritz, S-P-R-E-E-T-Z, a spritz. It's a feeling or a sensation of like a little bit of effervescence, but you get this fresh appley citrus flavors. Love it. You could drink more of it because it's a light before dinner, just hang out. Florida, it's perfect for the summertime or just when you want to come home, and instead of having a hard cider, have a Vinho Verde. They're inexpensive, $8-9 a bottle. This is a really good one that we sell direct to you. My favorite right now, it's the name for pheasant in Portuguese, Faiso. Comes from the Vinho Verde region. Again, it's a controlled area under controlada under the area. Again, just beautiful apples, like adult apple cider. Just take your, as the Spanish say, cidre, they always have Martinelli's apple cider, and just take that and make it adult, because that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of just fresh apples, fresh lemon, citrus, and that little bit of spritz, 10% alcohol, Faisal, the pheasant, is great for a peasant like me who can't afford much more wine, but who wants a lighter style wine. Then we get to the reds, the big ones. All three of these are from the Douro, because we don't have any from Alentejo here. This is Prazo de Roriz, and this is a 2009 Douro, which contains all the different blendings of the grapes that you know of. Every single grape is in this wine. All the six I mentioned, the Tinto Roriz, I don't want to go through them again, Tinto Barraco and Touriga Nacional, and they put them in all different percentages, but it's $16.99 bottle of wine that drinks muscular, that has tannin structure, and it's great as a wine for people who are looking for Bordeaux style wine or looking for a big Rioja. Remember, the Douro is the Douro River, which Spanish wines, Ribera del Duero, which is the river of the Duero, is just the other side. That's where the Douro is, the other side of the Douro River, but in Portugal, not in Spain. So you get a lot of that muscular stuff. And this is a 2009 vintage for $16.99. The 2014 I've reviewed, the Flor de Tessaderas from Quinta de Tessaderas, unoaked wine. So you really just taste the terroir of Portugal, of the Douro, and the muscular, the powerful fruit. This wine is big, it's bold, the fruit is strong, the finish is strong. I wrote a whole review. You can look back on my Wine 102 section and look for an article about Portugal. I reviewed this wine, gave it in the 90 points. It's just, I have customers that say if I ever, or ABC decides not to carry this wine anymore, please let them know they want to buy every bottle from every ABC store. It's just a $16.99 value. I saved the best for last, and I would show you more, but like most stores, they don't carry a lot of Portuguese wine, but certain stores, retailers have 5 rows of fortified port because that's everybody thinks. Portugal, oh yeah, where they make, where's the Porto section? They don't think of Portugal as a still wine, and they should, because the value is there. This is the 2011 Roquette and Cazès. Roquette and Cazès. First of all, there's 2 important things about this wine. The fact that they, first of all, use the major 3 grapes. They don't use all 6 in here, mostly the Touriga Nacional and the Tinto Roriz in this wine. But the vintage, 2011, very, very important vintage. In fact, in the Porto region for the fortified wine, the whole country of Portugal, 2011 was probably the best vintage scored by all magazine. In fact, the #1 wine of the year chosen in the top 100 wines from that vintage, 2011, was a port wine from Dow. Dow's 2011 vintage port was the #1 wine of the year. I think it scored 98 points. The vintage by Wine Spectator magazine was 99. I don't think there was a better weather year that was more perfect. And I don't remember ABC carrying much vintage selections of ports because they're expensive and they're not ready to drink right now. But they had to with all the hoopla about the 2011 vintage. So we have a bunch of 2011s that are in that $100 range. We brought them in all, and people are going to buy them and age them and cellar them. But even from the still wines, the 2011s are really a powerful vintage. Now, these 2 names, Roquette and Cazès. Roquette, for those of you who don't know, or if you do know Portuguese wines, it's been a #1 wine of the year before. Quinto de Crasto, Crasto. That's the Roquette from Quinto de Crasto. He is the proprietor of that winery in Portugal, one of the most famous. And Cazès, well, he's a Frenchman. And the Cazès family, they happen to have one of those classified grows in Pauillac, the same area where Chateau Lafite comes from. Want to take a guess? Does anybody know out there? I heard somebody out there say Chateau Lynch Boggs. Chateau Lynch Boggs, by the way, we sell here on the 2014 vintage, a current vintage, at $114, which is a good price, but the wine probably won't be ready to drink except maybe at my funeral because it needs about 30 years of aging. Hopefully I live another 30 years. I'm hoping maybe 50 years it'll still be good. But no, this is the family. So now you take the master of the Douro, and you match him or collaborate, Roquette, and you match him with the Cazès family, who brings that French oak aging and that French style of winemaking, and you just have a masterpiece. $34.99. We have about 11 bottles left on this wine, and we actually, to tell you the truth, we inherited some when our Coral Springs, Florida store closed down, and I sell maybe 1 or 2 bottles, but people don't understand it. I mean, where are you going to get a wine that's as powerful as any Bordeaux that you ever had, or a wine that is like better than any Ribera del Duero, $34.99 from the famous 2011 vintage? I'm thinking of buying all 11 bottles. Just remember, every $100 you spend, you get with your ABC card $10 back. Probably if I bought all 11, I'd be saving about $50 or $60 back on it, and getting some of the greatest wines that have plenty of years ahead of them. So remember, not just fortified wines, that's from the Porto region. We have the Vinho Verde from the Vinho Verde region, light, inexpensive, spritz, expressive aperitivo. Then bring out the prime rib roast, or the Kobe beef, or the Wagyu, and bring out those great wines from the Douro, $16.99, or splurge for a $34.99 wine that I'll put up against anything out of $100, certainly out of Napa, or maybe even out of Bordeaux, and is more ready to drink right now. If you want more information on any of these wines, including the fortified wine, you can go to our website for ABC, www.abcfws.com. And if you want, of course, be in touch with me in many different methods, just make sure you put your email address and follow this blog, and you will get an automatic email with all the different ways you can contact me, including through different apps with my cell phone number that you can text me all over the world and ask me wine questions. Drink more wines of Portugal, just like you did last week with Israel. This is the undiscovered value of wines from Europe. Okay? Until I see you again next time, remember, wine is not for snobs. It's for everyday people like you and me. Salud.